as I am waiting for folks to be notified for this TikTok live, I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreons in no particular order. These folks in particular, and moving forward, it is Sierra, Celia, Melissa, Emily, Lisa, Angelina, Aliana, sorry, Kelly, Catherine, Melanie, Krista, April, Ali, Daphne, Ariel, Kara, Hallie, or Haley, sorry, names are complicated. Amanda, Caitlin, Julie, Emily, Elisa, or Alyssa. My names are so good. This is a nickname. Chibadagger, Elizabeth, Lisa, Rob, Laura, Mel, Emily, and Nick. Thank you so much for supporting me. And I actually asked my Patreons first if they had particular questions that they wanted answered. That was earlier today, and I wanted to be sure to pop on and answer those. But that being said, hi everybody. I just started this. So let's see. Hi from Priya and Iowa. Hi. Hello. Yeah, this was unplanned. I used to go live like every Monday. I went live. So yeah, now I am doing lives when I can, basically. I'm just looking at my laptop because I took notes. Oh dear, looks like somebody deleted one of their things. But anywho, I was gonna answer some of your questions. So the person who deleted their question on Patreon, or their questions on Patreon, I was going to answer some of them at least. So anywho, okay. So let's see. Hello, Courtney. Hello from Virginia. Cool. From Malaysia. Cool. Florida. From the UK. Excellent. Hi. Super cool that all of you happen to be on at the same time I randomly decided to go live. If any of you happen to be looking for something to do on Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so perhaps some folks in the UK might like that too, because it's going to be at like 1 p.m. Your time, or words. Thanks, Johnny. Yeah, what is it? I'm failing as a typical American. If it's not a metric system, it's being able to tell the time, what we call military time. So, okay. I want to start getting into some of the questions. What I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be answering Patreon questions, but I'm also going to be answering questions that you all have, and I'm kind of going to go back and forth, but I want to be sure that I got to them. So, okay, this is for Melanie. Does everyone have the same clair senses, but just have it like be at different strengths? She says kind of like D&D, where everyone has the same skills, just at different levels due to balancing of skill points. I like the reference. Or is it just decided beforehand that these skills you get and no amount of trying is going to change that? So let's see, ask because every time she tries to open her mind's eye, mind refuses to show anything but darkness, kind of like a computer. Okay, so huge misconception when it comes to what the mind's eye means, because it's literally not just vision, okay? So part of what the mind's eye can be has to do with mental imagery. And that's one part of it. So that's mental imagery is a sign of clairvoyance, okay? Now, clairvoyance is another term that has been so convoluted with all the other senses. I did a video recently where I was basically talking about my different clair senses and my clair strengths. I do consider them abilities. I do not consider them gifts, just because we all have them to some extent. Most commonly is being an empath. So a lot of people have this empath thing. There's a car that's going by. And the thing with that is being empath is also scientifically supported, because we used to have to survive without being able to use language in highly dangerous scenarios. Think about being in a cave and you have to be able to communicate to the other people in your group that something dangerous just walked in your cave without verbalizing. So that is what is now considered a psychic sense, but it's also a survival sense. So if that helps you with opening up things to think of it less as like psychic senses and more like abilities that you can grow, that's an option. So back to the whole clairvoyance thing, for a quick reminder for anybody wondering. So clairvoyance is understood as clear vision. That could be either physical vision or mental vision. Both are absolutely valid. A lot of people tend to have inner like mental vision before they have like physical vision. Or if they had physical vision when they were younger, they may have shut that down due to either social conditioning or being frightened of it. I know I was frightened of it, and I was also socially conditioned by the religious structure that I was part of at the time. So clairvoyance, clear vision, either mental or physical eyes. You have clairaudience, which also works. You can have inner ear clairaudience or physical ear clairaudience. You can have, let's see, what I refer to as clairemotive. That's a term that I learned from Emily, who's like her words. I've gone live with her before. Being able to read emotions. I do this with spirits so much better than I do it with people. Like, I do not judge my abilities with people the way I judge my abilities with spirits. It's just the frequency is different. So let's see, the other ones, clairsalience. So that's actually being able to smell. This is very common too. People don't think about it. So if you know somebody who used to smoke or wear a particular perfume or cologne, or if you smell something that they might have been cooking at some point. So that's clairsalience. You have claircognizance. That's also known as intuition. It's just knowing things. Best way to grow this, I think, is to ask yourself questions, point blank, straight questions, see what answers you get. And then there's clairgustance, I think is what it's called. That's taste. Some people like it, you can actually share taste with spirits and they can with you. It typically is not talked about very often, but it can be a way to grow in that particular ability as far as connecting with them. So for example, I was working with somebody recently on how they could grow their connection with their spirit guide. And their spirit guide told them to cook a very specific dish. And then in order to connect with them, to ask questions and then take a bite of the dish and see if it tasted either off or delicious. So if it was off, the answer was no. And if it was on, the answer was yes. So that's a cool psychic thing. That was the homework. Whenever I have consults with people, I always give them homework. And the other one is clairsentience. So that is being able to feel. So feeling a spirit could be anything from recognizing the energetic change if they were to walk up behind you, electromagnetic change, just like if somebody physically were to walk up behind you, oftentimes people know without having to hear or see them. It's just you understand that something is there. Another way is to actually feel touched. More oftentimes than not, from who I've talked to and certainly from my experience, it oftentimes for folks doesn't actually feel like a hand. It feels like either a pressure, it could feel like a heat, could feel like a coldness, could feel like a tingling, could feel like a numbness. And it's usually, if it's like just a hand, it's like a very specific area. I have known of folks who have passed loved ones come back to visit them, and the loved ones will actually like hug them from behind, so they'll like feel tingling right here. So those are examples of your clairsenses, just as a quick review. So with this one in particular, going back to Melanie's question on, do you just get the senses and you don't get any others? I don't think so. And this is from personal experience. So I have been growing my clairaudience, okay? At no point in my life do I remember having physical ear clairaudience up until a few years ago. And then I kind of didn't acknowledge it, and then I came back, and still it's more like I have inner ear clairaudience. But when I first started to communicate with spirits, like really leaning into that, I was primarily using clairemotive, so being able to pick up on their emotive output, you know, like yes feels differently from a no. So the words started to come. And this is the same thing I'll tell people during consultations. I'm like, if you're looking for me to say exact words, it's coming, but I can always pinpoint feeling. So that's one of the things, which also, in my opinion, it tells more truth when you're talking about feeling, because people can lie with this, they can't always lie emotively. So I've found a number of truths with spirits that I've worked with for clients on that level. So all of that to say, I would recommend, if you have these clear senses, even if you just know of one at the beginning, work to strengthen that one. I don't think it's necessary to just try all of them at once, or try to strengthen all of them at once. Now, if you want to see if you have different ones to do like safe tests and that kind of thing, you absolutely can. I would also recommend work with either your spirit guides or those you know who have passed and who are around you, who mean you well. But grow the ones that you're most comfortable with first, the ones that you feel like you have an indication of what you have. So that way you can lean on them and use them to check yourself when you start to grow these other ones. Also, in my experience, I found that like sometimes, like, okay, the clairgustance, the psychic taste, I didn't know I could do that until suddenly I could. So you might have a hidden talent somewhere, but once again, society, we often talk about just like the clairvoyance, being able to see. There's so much more than that. So lean into that. Lean into what you think you have. Try them safely with those you trust. So that was my long answer to that question. I hope I was able to clear up some things. That's a good question. So from, what is it, Ginger of Doom, does stress cloud up your connection to your spirit guides, and how do you fix it? So the answer sadly is yes. Thank you, Mariah. The answer sadly is yes. I have found that if I am not handling my mental health appropriately, that my channeling gets really rough. It's the same reason why when my dog was, Mira, when she was ending towards her transition into spirit, I had to reschedule a number of my consults, which as a perfectionist, I'm working on that by the way, but as a perfectionist, it's really hard for me to do. I did not want to have to do that, and it was very painful for me to have to admit that I was hurting. But all the same, when I'm with my friends, I would never hold that against them for hurting. So it's also like my development as a person to be like, hey, I shouldn't be harder on myself when I'm not that hard on others. Like, obviously it's okay to feel. But yeah, when I was going through that, when I was going through grief, that's another huge thing. People, through their grief, they try to reach out to their loved ones. And that's incredibly difficult because grief is its own thing that you need to work through. I was very careful before I started doing consults again to be sure that I was in a place where I could channel clearly, because, and I also made a promise to myself for those early consultations that particular week. I just said to myself, I was like, look, if I get into this and I start channeling and I'm having trouble, or the content of what we're talking about, because I talk a lot about a lot of people passing, I made a promise to myself that I would just be honest to the person and I would tell them that I wasn't in the headspace to do that. Fortunately, I did not have to do that. But I think it was part of the reason why I had to promise myself that. So I always knew like I could always fall back on that. Unfortunately, people who I talk to, as far as rescheduling, have been incredibly kind and very easy to work with. So if any of you are watching, thank you. And I think all of us have had our chance to reschedule, if not already, or the next week. So yeah, as far as coming over, so it like coming over that difficulty when it comes to channeling. Yeah. One, don't force yourself. That will make it worse. At least in my experience, it makes it worse. Two, if it's an ongoing issue, like if it feels like it's something that you can't, change something in your life to fix, then that's where mental health practice comes in. I have always been open and avid about mental health practices. Even in my practice, I always say, hi, I am a spiritual professional. I am not a mental health professional. And goodness, I don't even want to think about where I would be without my therapist, who's always been very supportive and helps me to walk through things. Thank you. My spiritual journey has grown the most since I went to therapy. And go figure, the things that I talk about in therapy really have to do with spirits, because I have this whole other life that I'm living. Well, like another life, it's the same life, but you get what I mean. So yeah, time. My therapist always says, give yourself grace. So anybody who's getting frustrated out there, give yourself grace. And if you can't change your situation, or you change your situation and you're still having the same difficulties, then consider finding a counselor or a life coach even, or a therapist to assist you with that, or a support group. That's another thing I hear a lot of people talking about. I can't afford therapy, so for me, I used a sliding scale. You can search those to find more affordable therapists. There are online therapists. I know a lot of people who they are from small places, and the one therapist in town they just don't gel with, or they may not have one in town. So we're in an age where there's technology. So long as they're in your state, generally you can find somebody with some coverage. And I know like mine is 4 hours away, for example. I've never met her in person. One day maybe I will, but right now it's all online. So that's my answer to that. Okay, Melanie also asked, how's the book coming along? So yes, I am writing a book. I keep forgetting that I'm leaning forward. I'm gonna do this. Okay, so yes, I am writing a book. Goodness, every time I think that I've gotten like really far in where I need to go and I have like a direction and everything, like I know what I'm writing. It's the how I'm writing it. But anyway, that's a long story. What I will be doing, and I'm super excited to share this with all of you, I'm going to be sharing audiobook style snippets with my Patreons. I haven't added that to the tier system yet, but I'm super excited to be doing that. It might be under the exclusive content tier for the time being. But yeah, a lot of you talk about how you like my voice. And I thought, well, I am not ready to publish the book, but I certainly would like to share what I've been working on, and hope that folks like that. So that's an option for the future. So that's coming along, and I'm going to read another question from here. Let's see. From Vin, has any artist ever offered to animate my reenactments with Molly and the guys? To animate, like fully, like, or even like a cartoon slate? No, I've gotten like artist depictions, but not like a full animation. So if anybody wants to work with me on animating or even like cartoon stuff, like please let me know. My contact form is on my website, which is in the link tree. So that would be super cool. I actually in more recent years, I've really fallen in love with like comics. I think those are super cool. Like Lore Olympus, if anybody reads that, is so one of my favorites. And that was even before I was working with Hellenistic Hellenistic words pantheon. Some folks from there. Am I really referring to deities as folks now? Wow. Okay. Anyway, I am not referring to them as folks. That was a word choice on my account. And I feel like if Hermes knew that, he would laugh somewhere. Not because he was in approval, but because Hermes also works with communication, so that would have been a faux pas. So yes, Lore Olympus's life, love it. Somebody asked what a reading is like with me. So one, I have a lot of different options on what I talk about, and by the way, if I'm so floored by the amount of support from people. If you look at my schedule for availability for more traditional readings, it is very booked up. So thank you all. it's wild. Like back in October, I was booking maybe a week or two in advance, and now I'm almost a year in advance. For somebody, it is a year. So that's wild. I'm very moved by that much support. But so just to kind of build the tiers, so to speak, I do offer what I call general consults or quick chats. Those are not mediumship led. Those are more casual. Those are more like question answer. So if you're looking to build a cleansing routine, something that's based in whatever you believe in and something that's unique to you that makes you feel empowered, bingo, that's what those are for. If you want understanding, say you had something that happened to you years ago that was always very confusing to you and you want somebody to break it down as far as ghostly things. Once again, I'm not a mental health professional. If you had like people with alive stuff, I don't know if I'm the person to talk to on that, but ghosts, I gotcha. Or paranormal phenomenon, that kind of thing. Other things that I work on in quick chats, as I call them, or general consults. They're a great way to follow up post consultation, like mediumship-led consultation. Some people just want to say hi. Oh, thank you for the gift. I think this is Sarah. Yeah, thank you. For the people who just want to say hi, like I've literally had people book before because they were like, hi, I think you and I would get along and I, wanted to support you and just talk to you. Yes, like I've made friends through quick chats. That's how I met Alice, for example. Alice, who's connected to Alexander, and now Alexander and Rupert are besties. So, like I kid you not, they're besties. Also, Alice and I are besties. But anyway, if you're just looking to have answers, or if you're looking to talk spirituality, if you want tips on building your spirituality from a person who's very open-minded and is going to go off of what you believe in. I always ask people, I'm like, what do you believe in? It's not about what I believe in. It's about you, like your inner peace, your spiritual peace. So yeah, that's what quick chats are for, or general consults. And then I have mediumship-led consultations, which is like all of what I just mentioned, but with mediumship. So like if you're looking to learn about your spirit guides rather than just learn tips and tricks and new communication methods, or growing your clair abilities. If you're looking to ask a spirit guide, what are your clair abilities? How are they trying to communicate with you? That sort of thing. That's the mediumship stuff, and that's what I work with. I also work with people on being able to do that themselves. If you have ghosts that you either want to communicate with or you're not sure what to do about, bam, that's what I focus on as well. I do communicate with past loved ones so long as they are in the, are in the capacity to be able to speak and communicate. I always tell people, when people pass over, from my experience, and once again, I can't speak to other mediums' experiences, so if you come on here and you're like, well, so-and-so says this, well, that's their experience, and it's okay that we can have different experiences. But from my experience, sometimes when people pass over, they have their own mental health things to figure out, and it takes them a little bit longer to be able to talk or even want to talk. So I also am honest with clients. If I'm having trouble and I find them and they're trying to figure things out, I will explain what I'm getting on an energetic level. And I will also help the client to find ways where they can assist people who have passed. P.S. It does still work both ways. So if anybody's out there and they're like, I can't do anything for this person who has passed, actually, there are things that you can do, whether that's holding space for them, sharing good memories, sharing good times, doing things that they used to do with the intention of remembering them. There are things that you can do. And that's also part of my training that it's like part grief counseling and also end-of-life doulaing, which I have training in. No certifications there, and I'm always upfront about that, but I do have some training in all of that. So I work on the other side of end-of-life doulaing, and I have a huge amount of respect for people who work on this side of end-of-life doulaing. Doulaing, that's what I'm saying. Okay. I'm going to answer another Patreon question. This one is from Julie. Okay, So, which I don't know if you're watching. Hi, Julie, if you're watching. Hi, Miss Lily. I know you from so many different names. I just emailed you back today, by the way. I hope you are doing well. Let's see. So, Julie's question is, what do you do when you've managed to get your spirit guide in trouble with the elders? So, I'm going to go on a hunch that the spirit guide, oh, thank you, I believe it's Sammy, yes. Thank you all for the gifts. I'm going to go on a hunch that the spirit guide is one in particular that I've talked to and channeled, and this was during a consult, and the elders are like more the bigger guides, like the ones with a larger perspective, so to speak. So I'm of the belief, the reason why I say this is I'm of the belief that spirit guides are those who, some make contracts with us and are never in a physical form when they work with us. But some can be. It's like a graduation kind of thing, like past loved ones, if they get enough of their personal understanding to no longer require things that they may have needed when they were alive, like they can level up, that kind of thing. Same thing with ghosts. If the ghost is not, like those are people that perhaps you haven't met while they were physically here, but you meet them in spirit while here. If they no longer require any assistance from you, or they're not draining your energy or anything like that, they are fully functioning on their own, that can be another kind of spirit guide. What you're looking at is, in how I describe a spirit guide, is those who have a grand understanding of what's going on. They don't need anything from us except for us to pay attention to them. And even then, it's not that they need that. It's always a choice on whether we decide to do that. So, yeah. So back to the original question, if I'm understanding correctly, this was someone who was known while in the physical and now is acting as a kind of guide, but more like very much boots on the ground, with the elders, who may be ancestral spirit guides, they may be soul bond spirit guides, that sort of thing. They have a grander understanding because they were with you when like you decided what you're going to do in life. So you've got one who's kind of living with you in the present, one who has a grander understanding of what needs to happen. So that's what's happening right now. So if that's the case, I'm understanding. Yeah, so if there's getting into trouble, I recommended that she trusts her intuition more rather than pull them out for every single question. Because that's the thing, like, when you're learning and growing, yes, it is absolutely important to work with your guides for better understanding of the situation. Though when you get a hang of things, at some point you got to start swimming on your own. So yeah, I know for my guides, they come and go depending on who I'm working with and who is more involved in my life. So I know with one of my guides, ever since Rupert came in the picture and leveled up, she's been on vacation. Like, it's not literal vacation. It's not like I can't send her a energetic ping of a text or something like that. Like, she's always, ready to answer things, but she hasn't been, like, actively in my space as much as she used to. And the running joke was, she was just like, good, you found him, great. I'm going to be on vacation. You put me through the ringer. Let me know. Now, here's the thing. I love her. Like, we have connections with each other through different lives and that sort of thing. And I know if I call on her, she will absolutely come back from where she is. I've seen where she is. She's in spirit space. She's, like, overlooking a lake. Like, it looks so cool. It looks great. I'm like, I want to visit. But I know for her, if I were calling on her every day, she would be like, you've been working this hard. Why are you asking me everything? So at some point, once again, your spirit guides, if you're working with them regularly, at first they want you to work with them, and then some of them, it depends on who your spirit guide is, because every being is different. Some of them will be like, all right, swim, or all right, say no. Like that kind of thing. Cool. So that was a Patreon question. I'll answer another question from the chat from somebody who I haven't answered yet. Okay, this was the most recent question. Chocotes, I think I'm saying that correctly. I'm sorry if I'm not. Asks, are gods real? I assume you're asking for my opinion on that, but I'm going to go back to what's most important is your opinion, so long as it doesn't hurt yourself or others. I believe in gods. This is a new development. I used to consider myself mostly monotheistic. Now I am polytheistic, and I have a very open mindset of that. I also believe that all beings sync up to the same collective consciousness when needed, so it's not monotheism, but it's like we're all connected. But if you're looking for me to prove that to you, or if anybody's asking that question, that's not how it works. You believe or you don't, and that's your personal journey, and that's entirely okay on its own. It's the same reason why I don't really talk about like a lot of my religion and that kind of thing. One, I'm pretty freeform as it is, but I don't want people believing what I believe because I believe it. I want people to believe what they believe, because I think we all could support our own personal beliefs on spirituality and yet have all of them kind of link up at some level, and that's beautiful. So yeah, that's my answer with that. Okay. So another question from Patreon. This is from Lisa. So, okay. Lisa says, I have a convention group that wants to use a cemetery as backdrop for a fundraiser event. What do we need to do to make sure this goes off swimmingly? What rules do we need to follow? Excellent question. This could go for honestly anything that you're looking to do in a burial ground. First up, I would recommend go there and ask the guardian spirit if it is okay. Explain the situation. For example, I went live from St. James graveyard. Goodness, it was like October of 2019. And I should do that again. Now that things are like safe again, that'd be cool. But anywho, I went out there during the daytime, and this was part of Jay's practice as well. We brought rum and we brought coins. And we made the offering. We basically said, hi, we would like to do this thing tonight where we bring devices and answer people's questions from all over the world through these devices. And we held up the offering. Not all burial ground guardians will accept the same thing. Some of them will see change. I've heard in places where Jews are buried, they don't like coins. So, it's important to be aware of, who's the guardian there, who's buried there. So yeah, this one was totally fine with it because I live in a port city and they like coins, they like the rum. So basically what we did was on the edge of the burial ground, first we asked permission to enter, and you can feel that permission. You don't need to be like wild on your senses to be able to understand what a yes is from a no. Like a no sometimes will just feel like a, not quite a push, but like a wall kind of thing. It's a pressure difference. A yes is more like kind of thing. So first you ask entry, then you ask for the attention of the guardian and see how they feel about that. Always go with what you feel, always go with your gut. And then basically tell them what you're looking to do. Maybe tell them why you're looking to do that, especially if it would benefit the burial ground. If you think that making a donation to the burial ground would help your cause, like an actual like cash donation, then absolutely mention that. But you can take your offering, whatever that might be. Some people might bring flowers. It's, you know, it's what you feel is correct. And then you ask if you can leave it somewhere, what you feel is correct. If you feel a no, then ask if you can leave it elsewhere, something like that. I know for us, we put it under some leaves. And then go from there. You know, respect the answer that you get. Some graveyard guardians will be like, no, I don't want you filming in here. What are you talking about? And then other graveyard guardians are going to be like, whoa, that's awesome. Yeah, bring your people out here. Take some photos. Like, do that. It really depends on who you're dealing with. And sometimes it'll change from day to day. So just because you get a no, you can always try. If you feel like they might be more susceptible or more open to an answer that helps later, you can always try to bring that up again. But obviously, like, don't push it. So yeah, cool. Check my email about a book. Oh, I need to respond to you. Thank you for reminding me. Tomorrow is my P.O. Box day, so I am going to be looking at that, but I'm going to be sending you a personal response. Thank you for doing that. It so happened that I looked at that. So, okay, I got some other questions from my Patreon, but I am going to go back to the chat. Have I ever used dowsing rods? No, I haven't, and I've always been interested in using them. But yeah, now I want some dowsing rods. I wonder if I should put that on my Amazon gift list. Do they even sell those on Amazon? Hold on. I have the world at my fingertips. Hold on. I'm going to look on Amazon and see if there are dowsing rods, because I've actually never seen them sold in person. Oh, yeah. Okay, we got some copper dowsing rods. Oh, this one has a colonial figure on there. I do like the colonials. Rupert's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm so gonna be putting these on my Amazon gift list. Ooh, those look very basic. I love basic ones. Oh, those have pendulums involved. Cool. So it looks like I'm gonna be getting some dowsing rods at some point. Oh, these are pure copper. And it has a man. Is he playing an instrument while he uses his dowsing rods? I don't know, but you better know it's gonna go on my list. Done, because there's this little colonial man on there. What I love, what dowsing people used to use that to find streams under land, right? Yeah, so if anybody wants to help me out with that, that would be cool. I'm putting it on my list. What is it? Which list? Moving and birthday gifts. I guess it's not my birthday anymore, but oh, and there are books on dowsing too. Cool. Me going into dowsing being like, please work for me. But I would say, I think used coat hangers for water. Sweet. Yeah, I love it, just like credit card. Yeah, I would say dowsing rods are safer than some other things. Certainly I find pendulums to be very safe. Like, so if you're starting to get into this, I don't necessarily find spirit boxes safe, specifically because they send off a frequency that goes really wide. For example, this was a Patreon exclusive that I did where Rupert was kind enough to work with me on the SBox. We got some great stuff from him. Though I also got a conversation between two women across the street and then another man who was walking down the street and then got closer. So I was able to tell what was going on because I have mediumship ability things. But if I did not know that those women were across the street and that a man had been walking down, I would have been like, how many people are in this room? So it gets kind of scary, you know, and that's the thing with psychic stuff, you can put a barrier around of like protection and shielding and that sort of thing, that it doesn't go out. Technology, unless you know how to do that, it just shoots out everywhere. And it's like, from what I understand, SBoxes either terrify spirits, which is why some of them don't come through, or it's like a beacon. They're just like, what is that? And then they roll in for it. So do be careful with tech. It's super cool until it's super not. But that being said, if you have wards, shielding, that sort of thing around the place where you're using the equipment, you should be absolutely fine. If you are not sensing your own abilities, your clair skills on where the voices are coming from, you could be having a conversation with somebody like 2 doors down. So something to consider. Or if you have other tech to see who's in the room with you, that's another option. But some spirits will show up on some tech and not others, and it's just because of the frequency that they're at, which that's why when paranormal investigators have mediums on their teams, I'm like, because why would you investigate something without somebody who is also tapped into that world? But I don't know. Anywho, so this is from Vicky on Patreon. Vicky was very considerate concerning Mira's passing. My potato lady who was passed on. If you didn't see the videos, I posted them a few weeks ago when it happened. So the question is, was I able to communicate with Mira when she was in physical form? And did I use the same senses when I communicate with entities? I love that question. Very well thought out. So, animals I find are less shielded than people. And that's fine. You know, animals are, a lot of them are very pure in comparison. So they're easier to communicate with, and it is kind of like using the same clair senses, though I know some people who are skilled in animal communication specifically. Sorsha, by the way, is very skilled at this. John, her husband, is also very skilled at this. They have a bunch of cats and they understand what all of them are saying, and it is a super cool thing. They also understood what Mira was saying, they understood what Rosie now is saying, Roger, you know. And I think that was Julie that gave me the gift. Thank you. Yeah. So I know for John, when I've asked him this, he has clairaudience primarily. And I said, is it using the same thing? And he said, not exactly. It's like learning tones and being able to pick up on emotive output and kind of learning the animal a bit more. For Mira, what I would do is I would create like an emotive bubble of a good emotion that I wanted to share with her, and I'd kind of like put it around her, especially when she was having more pains and that sort of thing, and she couldn't walk as easily as she could. I would want her to be happy even if she couldn't do all the things that she wanted to do. And another thing that I did was I did body scans. So that's something where it's not like Reiki, because, well, it kind of is like Reiki, actually. It depends on the school of thought that you're a part of, but you can run your hand, like what I do is I'll run like maybe an inch or so above them of where their energy field is, and with the intention of finding like blockages or potential pain or something like that. I used to do that with her because her hips, she was overbred when she was very young. We got her when she was roughly 5, and she had a lot of hip problems. So like I would regularly do that to see if her hips were in pain and if I could like do something to massage them or something like that. So it's kind of like using a clair sense, kind of not. I know when I communicate with entities, it's really entirely more using clair senses. I use pings is what I call them, communicating primarily through telepathy. yeah, a lot of mediums do that. For the longest time, I thought that my thoughts were in my head until entities started to respond to them. And then I was like, how did you know that? Thanks, Miss Lily. And that's how that started. I did a video about projected thoughts versus inner head thoughts and how to like shield different options you can do to shield. Shields can look different, which is super cool. I see a lot of questions on shielding. P.S. This is kind of going into another question. Yeah, shielding is... The reality is if you believe it, it makes it real. Kids are really good at this. I was once walking on the sidewalk. This is when we had Mira, and Jay and I would always walk her in the afternoons and catch up with each other. And I remember he and I were in this conversation, and we were not paying attention to like what was in front of us. Mira walked off the sidewalk, which I mean happens sometimes, but she like went straight and then over. And both Jay and I, we felt like this resistance in the air, and both of us kind of looked at each other and we were like, what? And then we looked down. Some kid had written in sidewalk chalk, "Do not cross." And he, like, this kid put double lines on this "do not cross," you know, like both sides. And I looked at Jay, I was like, this kid has some power. This was sidewalk chalk, okay? This kid believed that when they wrote "do not cross," that it was a wall. This kid created a shield on a sidewalk just by writing "do not cross" and putting that intention into it. So if a child can do that and simply believe that they can, you all can create shields as you want. I'm trying to think if I released the video on shielding. I haven't yet. I have a video coming up on shielding, on different shields that you can do and kind of where to pull that energy from and that kind of thing. I also, this is something else I can work with people on quick chats or general consultations on my website. So yeah, until then, do look for that video. I'll see if I can put it out next week. I've got a lot of videos coming down the hatch. I'm really excited. P.S. If you haven't seen me in a little while, it is because the clock algorithm doesn't know what to do with me. So I am posting. I took a week-ish hiatus to grieve my friend, my dog, when she passed. But other than that, I generally am posting every day. I've got a live event coming up on Thursday. It is at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know it's early for a lot of folks, but it will be on YouTube as soon as I can get it on there. I'm going to the Bergwin Wright House, and I will be with the museum director there to hear the history, to hear some ghost stories, but also do some channeling myself. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah, May. I've never seen that one before. May. Yeah. So who was on the stairs? That will be in the live. I got a lot of really interesting answers on that one. And we'll see who was there that morning in particular. I know on those stairs I've run into a man before, and that's actually on YouTube on something that I filmed. That was in 2020. It was in November of 2020. Yeah. In fact, if you're Rupert reenactment fans, the time that I had left Wilmington in the bus and then came back for a day to film at the Bergwin Wright House, the first spirit that I wanted to run up to that day, as soon as we got back in town, was Rupert. And I run over to him and I'm like, "Hi!" And he's like, basically. And I was just like, "Hey, so we're filming this thing and I thought it'd be cool to like interview you. I mean, only if you want to. Hi, do you remember me?" And spoiler, he did remember me. He just, it was very painful to talk. He was just like, "When are you going to leave?" Because I was just like, yeah, I'm here for the day. And he didn't want to rekindle all of that for just a day. So we've worked past that. You know, we are figuring things out has not always been the clearest thing in the world. But the good news is we're doing much better. We've talked about this. So yeah, anywho, that was a little bit of a tangent. Okay, so I'm making sure I answered my Patreon questions. I think from the person before who sadly deleted their questions, I did go over some spirit guide stuff, which is, I believe, what they were asking from before. Oh, here's something fun. Okay, this is also from Melanie. What is my favorite childhood memory? Oof. You know what? Right now, because I've been doing some work to reconnect with some past loved ones, the thing that comes to mind is it was something called Yesteryear in Motion. And it was a fundraiser for our local Lions Club chapter, which, if you're not familiar with the Lions Club, they assist people who are hard of hearing, deaf, and blind. And they do different things like finding technology for them to assist them and just working with them. And yeah, my grandpa was a very active member of the Lions Club, and he held a fundraiser every year, which is called Yesteryear in Motion. This is in Jamestown, North Carolina. And it was like an antique show, but not like it wasn't like furniture and stuff. It was like olden day stuff. So there were tractors that were like 100 years old, like, so, you know, like some of the first tractors, like, was super cool. We also had tractor pulls with some really outfitted tractors, very southern stuff. We had lawnmower pulls, which is basically you see which lawnmower can pull the most weight. There was always bluegrass. And we had a chuck wagon, which had some southern cuisine. So we're talking like biscuits and sausage. There was homemade ice cream, and there were local vendors. And sometimes there were like old antique cars out there and like steam engine stuff. I clogged as a child. I saw cloggers, I think when I was 5, and I looked at my mom and I was like, Mom, I want to clog. I want to do what they do. And my mom was like, okay. And back then in Jamestown, at the Jamestown Public Library, in the basement, there was a volunteer clogging group, and all of them were like well into their 60s. And I roll in, I am 5. And they were all so nice to me. I don't even think I was that good, but they were all really patient with me. So yeah, I've been clogging since I was 5. Well, not since I was 5. I clogged until the group moved. We got a different leader, but yeah, they moved farther away and we couldn't make it anymore because it was like an hour away. But yeah, that's some of my childhood memories growing up in the South. Yeah, when I think about Southern heritage, I think about biscuits and clogging and bluegrass. That's what I think of, and I that's what I want to share with people from the South, because let's be real, there's some other things that are not as great. But biscuits and bluegrass and clogging and tractor pulls and hay rides. That was it. So the other question was not just my favorite childhood memory, but can you ask the ghost crew as well and see if they're willing to answer? Okay, Jimothy's coming back for this. I'm asking Rupert first because he's here. Are we surprised? Rupert, if you would, favorite childhood memory? That was sarcasm. Okay, he was just like, out of the handful that I have. I was like, yes, out of the handful that you have. He's young. This was before his older half-brothers died. I don't think his sister was born. No. She was a baby. Okay. There's something going on in the local town. Some kind of festival. Apples? Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. I'm just like, I don't know. This is stupid for me to say. I don't know what they have in Wales. And I don't, especially during that would have been the 1760s at that point. Early 1760s. It's like, we had apples. Okay. So I guess it was something in late summer? Early fall? I think early fall. Was it like a traditional holiday? Okay. 1764, says ma'am. Oh, hey, Kat, I didn't see you on here. I love you. Well, I'm gonna have to work with what holiday that is, because I think you've said it, and because it's Welsh, I am not able to get it. So Kat says hi. He's like, hello. Yeah, so some sort of festival? They're like bright, am I saying like ribbons? Red, I think. Yeah, the younger kids in particular are getting fruits. Not a surplus, but he was very much looking forward to having an apple that day. That's what I get. That was the thing. It was like some seasonal, like, it wasn't like a harvest thing. He says that was one of the last really good memories, as them as a full family. And that really breaks my heart. Okay, he's just like, this is why I don't tell you about my early life. It's not happy. I'm like, I know, but it was really personal. And thank you for sharing that. He's also mentioning that was before there was judgment. Was it Mabon? He just shrugged that off. That was ma'am, by the way. He was like, okay. Yeah, he was like, yes. So, wait, I'm gonna look up. Wait, so it starts September 21st and ends September 29th this year. I just looked it up because internet. And that would have been the same time that Yesterday Your Emotion would have happened. Because it was always the fourth Saturday in September. That also would have been your birthday. Well, depending. Did you get an extra apple for your birthday? He did not get an extra apple for his birthday. Did anybody know it was your birthday? Oh, he didn't. Oh, ooh, okay. So apparently, his mother was talking about his birthday, but he was kind of getting embarrassed by that, because it was kind of like, well, he's going to be 6. He just shrugged. So roughly 6. It's like, oh, he's going to be 6 in a few days. But it almost seemed like a way to get extra things. Oops, if I insulted you with that remark. Okay, no, I didn't. Yeah, so still, that makes me really happy to know that at least that was a good memory. Yeah. Well, who was that? That was Melanie, right? Yeah, thanks for asking that question, because these are things that I wouldn't think to ask, but that was a really nice memory. I'm basically waiting to see if there's any more, because I saw the river where he's from. P.S. That's in a video from Ghost Gets One, and I don't pronounce it so well, so that's why I'm not saying it. It's not a secret. So yeah, and I mentioned siblings in the second most recent, the beginning of the ghost reenactments, Ghost Gets 2. But yeah, I think it was just fun. Was there a competition? feel like there was a competition for something, like, and like the winner got a whole like bushel or something, or a peck of apples or something like that. Like there's celebratory apple stuff. He did not win. Yeah, okay. He wore good clothing. I mean, there were hand-me-downs, but I also get that he's a very clean fellow. Like, that's something that's always been very important to him. Making sure that he looks good, very crisp and clean and that sort of thing. And so, okay, he was particular. He didn't want to run and get dirty. I think it kind of looks like there was a storm a few days before, so there was a lot of mud. So, yeah, okay, cool. Thanks, Rupert. So, Jimothy. I don't know if anybody else felt that. It's like, yeah. He just went through the... Okay, I was like, why do I feel you behind me? He was like, yeah. Okay, so the people want to know, what is your favorite childhood memory? It's like, I got a big one? Okay. He's choosing right now, so I'm going to have a swig of my drink. People say hi, by the way. Most recently from New Hampshire. That was funny. He was like, that's from up north. I said, yeah. Do you know all the states up north? He's like, no, but all the new states are up north. Okay. So, yeah, question at hand is favorite childhood memory. You had a horse? Oh, okay. Okay. So it wasn't a horse, it was a mule. He said, yeah, Papa bought a mule. He brought it back to the farm. And he got to ride the mule. Rupert just laughed at him. He's like, really? That's rude. Great, now they're going back and forth on this whole thing of like, well, what, did you ever ride a mule? No. Okay. Okay. So you got to ride a mule. Did your brother get to ride the mule? He wasn't home yet. Where was he? He was out doing work. So I think he was like, something to do with, it wasn't plowing a field, it was like, cutting down like the high grass of a field. I forget what that's called right now. But apparently his older brother, who, we know his name, but I haven't mentioned it because he doesn't want to be a part of the interwebs. He's still around, by the way. He was also at Fort Fisher. But Arnold knows him too, by the way. Katz Arnold knows him. And that's how it is now. Katz Arnold. No longer Jimothy's Arnold. He was like, well, I knew him first. So enjoy that. So, okay, his older brother was off working to cut down a field for plowing, and the mule was brought in to plow the field because they had already done theirs. Did you get to keep the mule? That was funny. He was just like, well, yeah, no. But yeah, it's like he was too small to be able to help plow. Yeah, he's I think at some point his father had him like kind of lead the mule a little bit, like going down the lines, but something in his head being able to ride the mule and lead it instead of... Okay, so that's what it was. So the mule had the plow behind him, right? And his dad thought it would be better because he was small. Like maybe 4... No, not really. I think you were older than 4. I think he was older than 4. Anywho, so it was seen as safer for him to be on the back of the mule with like reins rather than have him be in the front to like pull the mule. And that's how he got to ride it. And of course his father still had the plow back, so it's not like the mule would like run off or anything like that. That is fun. It's a fun memory. People are saying hello to you both, by the way. He's like, hi people. I will say, okay, so I mentioned this, he knows this, of course. We are looking to celebrate Jimothy's actual birthday, which is on June 11th. Okay, he was just like, well, if you can't remember, I'm not going to keep telling you. Okay, well, it's going to be in June. It's either the 11th or the 17th. I wrote it down. And we're going to be gathering at Fort Fisher. But that being said, more details I'm going to be putting out on my newsletter and my website. And the newsletters are on my website. So if you want to meet up with us in person, you should follow my newsletter, because once again, Clock App algorithm is not a huge fan of me right now, and just because you're not seeing my videos doesn't mean I'm not posting. So catch up if you haven't. But I always put things out on my newsletters. Of course, Patreons, they get important videos, all the reenactments in full. I'm now only posting cut videos. Like, you'll still get the full plot, but if you want more information and more details, that is on my Patreon for reenactments. And yeah, so goodness, I got through all my Patreon questions. I got through a bunch of questions from all of you. I will answer one more question. So I'm going to look away, and then when I look back at the screen, because I'm going to give it some time for all of you to type up your questions, and then I'm going to trust the universe for me to look at the right question. And it can be either for me or Jimothy or Rupert, if Rupert wants to answer. Which, it depends on the question. It's got to be a good one if you want him to answer. Like one that he finds interesting, not necessarily a good question. Okay, so I'm waiting for more to come through, because I know there's a little bit of a lag when it comes to writing up questions and that kind of thing. And I'm gonna look in 3, 2, 1, pow. Oh, well, that's not a question, but that makes me feel so much better. What is that? Jinzer of Doom says, I want to thank you for your videos because I am able to talk to my grandpa again. Yay, that means a lot. Thank you for sharing that with me. That makes me very happy. And right above it from Amanda, what is Rupert's favorite joke? No. It's not appropriate. It's something to do with an accountant. Something that would have been very funny in the 1700s. Do you have another joke? Maybe something Alexander gave you? Okay, well, we don't get a joke from Rupert, everybody. He was just like, I had a joke. I was like, no, okay, we're not talking about accountants, especially as I have friends who are accountants, and no. He's from the 1700s, by the way. We're working through it. So, anyway, goodness. Rupert does have an accent, yes. I just don't do a Welsh accent very well, but he does sound more English. Okay, there we go. From Vin and a bunch of numbers. Have Rupert and Jimothy tried any new foods lately? Okay, that's what I was thinking. So from Jimothy, it was a lemon cake. Well, that wasn't new. Okay. So there is a local cake baker. She just has a small business, it's just her. And she sells her cakes to 24 South, the coffee shop. And that's where Molly is, by the way. And there was a lemon cake that Jay and I got for our wedding. and they typically don't sell it at 24 because apparently people don't like lemon. But anyway, we got it at the wedding, and I thought that we had put out a piece of cake. Oh no, we put out alcohol. Whoops, so that's how you didn't try it. Noted. We gave the spirits their alcohol. We gave the spirits. So the other day when I saw that they had lemon cake, I basically dropped everything and I ran over to 24 and I was like, I'm gonna have this lemon cake because it was so good and more people need to eat it. And by the way, if you are local, you should definitely order straight from this woman. You can get an entire cake. Eat that whole cake of lemon cake. It was so good. But yeah, I shared that with him through Claire Gustance is what I think it is called. It's the psychic taste or clear taste. He's like, yeah, it tasted fancy. It's so good. It's so good. It's like lemon and vanilla and fluffy and nice. And it's like got just lemon puree, but it's not overdone. It's not overly tart. It's, if they have it again this week, I'm gonna get it again this week. But yeah, so he really liked that. I think Molly's favorite cake is from this woman is the Italian cream cake. Mine is the cookie dough or the strawberry, because the strawberry is the closest I've ever had to my grandmother's strawberry cake. In fact, the first time I ate it, I nearly cried because I was like, it's the closest. Fanny liked the lemon cake as well because I shared it with them. Basically, okay, this is what it's like. This was literally last week, okay? I go there, I get my lemon cake, and I'm so excited. And I sit down at the table, and I pull out my laptop because I go there to write. And Molly sits down, and she says, I want some. And I was like, okay, sure. And she's just like, I want the first bite. Okay. So when I know that Claire Gustance is working, I don't taste. Like, it's very light. It's almost like seltzer. It's the idea of taste. I still get the texture and everything, but that's how I know that I'm sending the taste. Yes, this is a thing. For anybody who's wondering, it is actually a thing. They can also share what they're getting with us as well. But anywho, so she wants the first bite. So I'm like, okay, Molly, because I love you. So that happens. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to share with Fanny. Okay, so I share with her. And then, of course, Jimothy, of course. And then Rupert, who was also like, eat your food. And I was just like, but I must share it with you. And he's just like, I don't need this. They don't. My phone's dying. But yeah, he was like, that's very kind, but none of us need this. What? But I shared it with him anyway. And then I got most of the rest of the cake, except for when Molly wanted more. That's a great test for channeling, when I'm like typing something up and then out of nowhere I get I want the next bite, that one there. Like it's very much just like, no, like I'll have the fork and she's like, over, that one. And I'm like, okay. It's funny, I was actually telling Jay the story today. Anywho, Rupert. Yeah, okay. The Welsh cakes. So Alice, out of the generosity that is Alice, she decided to send Welsh cakes from a bakery that's in California. It's called the Welsh Baker. And they ship all over the United States. They might ship all over the world, I don't know. And the one that Alice really wanted him to try was orange cranberry. And this was interesting too, because he actually was able to send the taste to me. Once again, it kind of tasted like seltzer. But I got the tang of like the orangeness at the end, I guess. But he really liked the oatmeal ones because they weren't very sweet. Rupert does not have like a crazy sweet tooth. He's not a sweets guy. He's a bitters guy. He's a bitter guy. Sorry, I couldn't resist. He likes savory things, but he also believes that everything nowadays is so overly saturated with like salt and sugar, so for the most part he doesn't really enjoy modern day foods. I also explained to him how factory farming works, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, I just ruined your night because you're gonna look it up. Factory farming, everybody look it up. But anywho, yeah, I explained that. I explained corporate America. I explained the oligarchy. I explained Walmart. When we were hanging out after I moved back to Wilmington and we would just like walk around and talk about things, I was like, oh yeah, Walmart. And he was just like, what's that? And I was like, oh, all right then, here we go. Like, same thing with meat. I personally don't eat meat. It's part of my morals, but I'm also of the mind that if I'm going to eat meat, that I'm going to be the one to do all of that processing. I would be the one to take the animal's life and make sure that the animal crossed on properly, and also did everything from there, from life to plate. That is my personal moral, because we're not in an apocalyptic situation and I can get all my vitamins and nutrients by not eating meat. I don't. So that's my decision. But basically he was watching me not eat meat, right? And he was just like, why? And I was like, I will explain to you why. And I explained that most people don't know what beings look like before they wind up on the table. Most people don't know what it's like to have to do that and see a being pass in order to eat it, which also was a thing for him because he had geese when he was growing up. Like that was an everyday thing. Maybe not every day. Okay, not every day, but if they were gonna have a goose, that was part of what he did. So yeah, I explained that, and then I also explained why I wouldn't trust meat in the first place nowadays anyway, because most of the time we don't know where it's coming from. And on that downer, goodness, I said one more question, and here I am 18 minutes later. What's the Welsh cake place called? That's a good question. That's a happier question. And the cakes are vegetarian, so go for that. So it's called the Welsh Baker. So yeah, cool. This is a quick question. If Rupert's Welsh, why did he immigrate here? Because he did not have a good time in Wales and he wanted to get away, and joining the army was the quickest way to do that because they were in the middle of what was it called? A disagreement, a skirmish with the colonies. What we now call the Revolutionary War. A disagreement, a brush. Yeah. To this day, he still is just like, it wasn't, yeah. Somebody asked, can they go to the light? I would challenge you to think that perhaps not everybody wants to. God, he was just like, why do people keep asking that question? I'm not barking at you, I promise. It's whenever I get that question about crossing over, I always challenge with another question of, what if you had an opportunity to learn all of your lessons? It just took a little bit longer. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes we don't learn all the lessons when we're in this, and so we have to learn them elsewhere. And some people's lessons just take a few hundred years. We hope that it's not the case, and generally speaking, it is not the case. Rupert had been looking for my soul for about 300 years, and that's what happened. Jimothy found camaraderie and friendship and family out at the fort, and they all take care of the fort now on a spiritual level. They watch how things change. I think of Arnold at the fort with Kat. Like, he is learning so much more by being with her, and same thing with Jimothy. Like, he wanted to travel, he wanted to do more, and so that's why he was like, hey, can I tag along? And we're like, dude, you seem cool. Molly's good. yeah, she's thriving. I can't go into all the details on why she's thriving because I have to check that with another spirit who I've not mentioned before. But I'm just gonna leave it at that. That's all I'm gonna say right now before yes, I know a lot of spirits that I don't talk about online because I want to check it with them first before I just like put all of their stuff online. What? Did Rupert ever tell me about his wife ever, Froggy? I don't know what that means. He only married once. And that was to my previous life. Yeah, he was just like, what does Rupert think about, well, how we dress today? He keeps his opinions on how I dress in particular to himself, which is probably safe because they did not wear this back in the 1700s. But generally speaking, nowadays he usually wears jeans and either a t-shirt or a button-up. It's a lot more comfortable. Yeah. But there is something to be said about the effort that fashion used to take, like the amount of effort you had to put into it in the 18th century, and that's what he appreciates. But yeah. Can ghosts do past life regression and previous lives? Yes, but you would need a medium and a regressionist. So a regressionist who's also a medium in order to work with that. Or at least for a spirit to be regressed and then to have a medium work with them on that. Though I think to some extent the hypno status might be different for them. So that'll be something curious to look into. Do I see spirits in my own house? I invited them in. Jimothy's still there and Rupert's in my doorway. In fact, people have seen Rupert especially on lives before because he'll hang out in doorways. So for anyone asking about my past life with Rupert, I recommend checking out the Ghost Skits 1 playlist because it's all there. So if you want to catch up with that, it is, from what I've been told, binge-worthy material for me playing across from myself. Yeah. So, yeah, I think this is a good place to stop, just because I've been at this for an hour and a half. All of this is going to be on my YouTube later, and I'll put some timestamps on there so you can see when questions have been answered. Thanks everybody for joining. Once again, a huge shout out to my Patreons. I listed them all off at the beginning of this, and they've been seeing my full uncut reenactment videos. Once again, if you want to learn about when I'll be releasing at least snippets of the book, that'll be on Patreon, as well as I'll be making announcements on my newsletter, which is through my website. If you haven't been on my website, you should check that out if you want, or not, it's whatever. I still am posting daily. My next live will be on Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at the Bergen Wright House. I will be live with the museum director. We'll be sharing the history. We'll be talking about ghost stories, and I'll be also channeling folks that are around as well. That will be up on my YouTube later if you happen to miss it. And my website is RebekahTheGhostGuide.com. That is all on my link tree. And yes, thank you all. Love you. Thank you to my mods, Miss Lily and Spooktastics. And I think those were the two mods that I saw. But otherwise, I will see you around. If not here, then on Instagram. And I hope everybody has a great night, day, afternoon, wherever you are right now. Thanks for watching.